Hello and welcome to this review of the Difficult Dukes historical romance book series by Loretta Chase. I'm Olivia, your favorite resource for book recommendations you can easily screenshot, and you're watching a Random Olive Reads. First up is A Duke in Shining Armor. This book was so fun and reminded me how much I love road trip romances in a historical setting. Ripley is a groomsman at his best friend's wedding and charged with making sure the wedding happens. The problem is that Olympia has run away and Ripley chases after her. He's doing his best to convince her to go back, and then he realizes he needs to stall her so that her groom can catch up, and all the while trying to protect her reputation. But Olympia is all sorts of frantic and not at all interested in going back to her fiance. Along the way, Olympia and Ripley get to know each other, and Ripley now has to switch his efforts to just not betraying his best friend. There's chaos and adventure, and I loved seeing these two people fall in love. 10 Things I Hate About the Duke is book 2 of the series. The Duke of Ashmont is your Regency era himbo named His Grace with the Angel Face and basically doing nothing productive with his title. He spends so much time drunk that no one has any noble expectations of him. Cassandra is the eldest daughter of a politician who's known for being a shrew and completely outspoken. When she gets into a tangle with Ashmont, his solution is to marry her. She refuses over and over and over again, but he seems to be quite persistent. I actually really loved seeing him be the one to pursue her and work hard at earning her esteem. I also liked reading about their interactions as children and how those experiences influence their present day affections. I love this book. My Inconvenient Duke is a book 3 of the series. We start with Alice being terrified that her idiot brother will be killed sometime soon. So she sets off to find a husband this season to make sure she's never at the mercy of her cruel cousin. Her brother's best friend, the Duke of Blackwood, is all sorts of distressed at the thought of Alice marrying anyone else, even though he has no claim to her. He's clearly nursing a longtime affection for her, despite having chosen a lifetime of debauchery with his best friends instead of the upstanding life he could have had with her. And when Blackwood hears that Alice's terrible cousin is in town, he tries his best to protect her. We end up with some sort of wild goose chase in the middle of the book that have Blackwood and Alice in a compromising circumstance and needing to marry. While this seems like the beginning of a happily ever after for them, they get pulled in different directions due to competing responsibilities. Now, as a standalone read, this book was fine. As a follow up after the first two books, it fell a little flat because most of this book takes place before the events of the first two books. And the first two books hinted that these two people are estranged somehow. We learn more about this so called estrangement in this book and do eventually end up with a happily ever after, but it was a lot less dramatic than I expected. All of these books are connected by the friend group made of disgraceful dukes, but despite their bad behavior, they're all sweet and charming in their own ways. I enjoyed seeing the men here mature and realize that there's something bigger and more important in their lives than drunken pranks. I loved the first two books of the series, and while the third didn't quite live up to my expectations, it was still a worthy read. Thank you so much for watching this video. Hopefully you found a book or 3 to add to your TBR. Links to all of these books are in the description box. Like and subscribe to get updates, and you can follow me on Instagram at randomolive.